What's up, y'all? So check it out, man. I've been wanting to do this video for a few days now, ever since a little discussion we had in the shop last week. In the shop we always have discussions and debates and back and forths about a lot of topics, and one of the main ones being relationships between men and women. Because I guess once you get to a certain age, you pretty much understand that it's always going to be somewhat of a communication divide and understanding when it comes to men and women, and a lot of things factor into that. But last week, one of my clients was in the chair and we was having a discussion with the understanding and the differences between men and women, and he said something that I never actually even thought about, or I know a lot of people haven't gave a lot of thought or consideration to. But he was just like, he said social media and the internet has gotten, you know, people so all over the place where you will forget that, when we were in school, he said, we weren't all in the same class. And, the first thing that came to my mind was like, yeah, we weren't, all same grade level. Some people older, some. He was like, no, no, no. He was like, we weren't all in the same class. We got separated based on our abilities in the classroom. And I stopped and I was like, he was like, yeah, it was some people in, the slow classes, some people who was in regular classes, some people who was in gifted classes. And when he said that, I immediately knew what he was hitting on. He said, we're adults right now and we don't know who was in what class, you know? And it sounds funny until I thought about it after we finished the discussion in the shop. It was like, yo, we really don't take that type of stuff into consideration when it comes to our relationships with people, whether it be our friendships, our romantic relationships, dating, marriages, everything. Because I immediately started thinking of things I've been through, and with the people I went through and with, I immediately started thinking about things that I see on the internet with people I've heard from other stories. And I'm just like, yeah, when we were in school, it were really, we really had like 3 or 4 levels of classes. We had the SLD, and back in the 80s and 90s, we were able to like talk a certain way. So we used to be like, oh yeah, SLD stood for slow learning dummy. When it really was people who had learning disabilities. It was slow learning disabilities. And in the community, when we were coming up, we'd just be like, oh, that motherfucker retarded, or they throwed off or some shit like that. But we were real harsh as kids. But that was part of growing up in the 80s and the 90s. And then you had the remedial class. It was just like, yeah, they may not have had like a slow learning a disability with learning, but they wasn't as on pace all the time as the regular classes. Then you had the regular classes, and that was pretty much like 80% of everybody. Then you had advanced classes. It was some people who was a little quicker at certain subjects, so they had the advanced class. Then you had the gifted program. Again, I was in the gifted program, elementary, like half of elementary, most of middle school, until I just wanted to fund my way out of the gifted program, because I got tired of being in the same class all day with, the same 12 people, and never was in class with my friends who lived in the neighborhood or rode the bus with me. But that's a whole nother story. But basically with gifted, it was basically the kids who had the higher aptitude to learn things and retain information quicker. I knew how to memorize things that I saw and heard, and I can retain it long enough to take a test and pass. That was the basic breakdown for me with being in the gifted program. I could spot out things, I understood things, and I can learn real quick. But fast forward it, far as like dealing with people in our adult life and relationships, we'll be out here dating people and thinking that this person is just doing us wrong or being a certain type of way, or they just don't get it, and we wrecking our brain and banging our head up against the wall. But in actuality, that person just may not have the aptitude to comprehend what is necessary to be I guess, okay or good in a thriving relationship. I've been there. And I remember I used to say all kind of stuff about the person I was dating. It was just like, this motherfucker just ain't never been taught nothing. Like, how did they pass school? Like, we never had a conversation of, yo, what kind of grades did you get in school? Or what kind of classes did you take? Or did you actually graduate? That's a real thing, because everything about her showed remedial. Everything. Everything about it. And, I would make certain jokes and say certain things, but in actuality, this person just didn't have the, I guess, the the aptitude to learn or understand certain things a certain type of way. Even when it was just like right in front of them. And then I had friends who was the same way. And back in the day, we joking on them. We give them a little crazy nickname. We named the dude Nutso. We named him Nutso. That's how he was doing a little weird off-road shit to us or around us. We named him Nutso. And then you get older in age, and it's like, damn, bro, like, why are you like this? Like, still like this? Like, you stuck and you trapped in a certain type of frame with your thinking and your whole process. And I remember when we were about to turn 40. So this was a few years back. And I had just turned 40. He was about to turn 40. I'm a few months older than he is. And his process and the way he thought and processed so many things, I was just like, I can't do it no more. I just can't. It doesn't matter how I explain it to him in what fashion, he just doesn't get it. And he started talking to me more about, when he was younger and certain things he experienced. Come to find out, bro, your mom knew you was special, bro. Like, he was going to special schools all throughout elementary and middle school. It wasn't until he got to high school and it was just like, okay, let him try regular school. And he was going to school further down south in Miami, and then he moved up here to Palm Beach County and started going to school. And I think he only literally went to high school, like actual school, maybe like 2 years before it was just like, okay, homeschool, do it online, finish. He was very bright far as what he could, see on a piece of paper and pass. People will think just because somebody can pass a test or get good grades that it's nothing wrong with them. No, it's levels to the spectrum. It's levels to it. It's people who are gonna need their hand held their whole life that's on the spectrum, and then it's people who are on the spectrum who are people like Elon Musk. You feel me? They just kind of, we'll look at him and say, oh, he a weirdo, but he's a smart weirdo, brainiac, whatever. So it's definitely levels to it. I got people around me who you would think just because they can go to work and complete and do a task at work and get paid and pay their bills on time most of the time, that they're a regular sane thinking person. But in actuality, they were in the slow classes all throughout school. But we never take consideration of that. Everybody has different levels of learning and comprehension. It's some people who can read a paragraph and they can read that same paragraph over 8 times, and then you be like, what you just read? And it'd be like, some words. Like, literally, that's all they can remember, is that they read some words. Meanwhile, you can give me a whole essay on one sheet of paper and I'm gonna read the first paragraph and the last paragraph, and I can make sense of the middle. It's a lot of people like that. I don't have to read every single word to make sense of what's going on. Long as I can see how it started, how it finished, I might can read a little bit of the middle, but I can pretty much piece it all together. Some people do not know how to do that in life. Doesn't matter how old they are. Sometimes they can go through their whole life unchecked about their ways and their nature. We'll be thinking people are just stubborn or they just an asshole. It's an older dude used to come in my shop. Dude was like married 6 or 7 times. But his behavior be like, I guess soon as he get mad or fed up with a woman, he drop her, get a new one, and get married to her. And it's just like, one, why you getting married all them damn times? It's clearly you. It's not them. It's clearly something with you. So maybe you need to slow down with your handle and how you go about, meeting and greeting women. But just as men being around him, even though he was an older man, old enough to be all of our fathers, it was just like, yo, the we see that creep shit in you. It don't matter that you're an older man. Like, we just ain't gonna respect you just off the strength that, you 30 years old. If you know, got you some creep or foul ways, we see it. That's what it is. You old with creep ways. I'm pretty sure you were younger and even more creep when you had your health, that money was popping, and you can move around quicker. You know what I'm saying? So people can travel through life, and in this, male and female, and it doesn't matter, man. People be really around here. It be like a blind lead and a blind in relationships. You might have a dude who was in remedial classes who ain't even graduate, and a chick who was just you know I guess sliding by in regular classes. She probably should have been in remedial, but she was getting D's and C's and just barely made it out of regular classes. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm saying this applies to and for all people, because there were some people who were just in school lazy, and they want to feel like doing the work, but they were bright as hell. And then there were some people who was just bright as hell, did everything they were supposed to do, how they were supposed to do it, made all A's and B's, and they don't have real life sensibility or skill sets. And we be forgetting that a lot of this shit has to be taught. A lot of things have to be taught. A lot of things already come pre-packaged with people. I like to believe that I just had a lot of things already in me instilled that I got, I guess, inherited from my mother and my father, and the way they were. Like, I was the type of kid, my mother never told me, go clean your room. I like my room to be clean, so my room was always clean. But my mother and my father are the two neatest people that I know. They like total neat freaks. So, I mean, I just inherently get it from them. But then there was other things that I remember that I'm not so much like my parents, that I fall short in. And I remember my mother was saying to me one time when I was complaining about something, she said, well, I thought you would just watch me and your dad and just see how we handled business, and you would kind of fall in line. And I was just like, I had to remind, I said, hey, you had two other siblings that was in the house with you, with your mother. You took up stuff after your mother. I said, how did that work for your other two siblings? And she was like, oh yeah, I ain't think about that. And I'm like, some people have to get taught things. Some people just inherently get it. Some people never get it. Some people never understand. Some people have a mental block so like strong in their mind that they won't be able to understand something. It would never make sense to them. I can literally watch a movie, and just based on things that I see in the movie, I take heed to that shit and apply it to real life. Like, that really can and will happen. So you have to be aware of that and prepared for that. Meanwhile, it's people who can watch a movie, and the movie can have somebody have their child get kidnapped and tortured, and mistreated by the next door neighbor or the neighbor across the street. And they'll look at that movie like, oh, it's just a movie. It's not real life. Meanwhile, they got the movie from a real life story and a depiction. Like, that really is real. That really does happen. But in their mind, they can't fathom that happening. Or when you see people who do the same thing consistently over and over again, and it results is the same, that they get the same results from what they're doing over and over again. They don't have the ability to just stop on a dime and maneuver differently or find a different understanding. And that's just based on what they're doing and what they want and what they're not getting out of it. You know, I guess they call that the definition of insanity in most cases, when you keep repeatedly doing the same thing, hoping for different results. Some people do not know how to stop on a dime and use logic in a logical way. And that sense that we call common sense is not the most common. That's the other thing. Common sense is not so common. So you literally have, we don't know who we're going back and forth with. You could put a post up on social media and people can get on there and going back and forth, and you don't know if you're going back and forth with somebody who, shit, got a fifth grade education. Yeah, they might be 39 years old, but they got a fifth grade education. They don't even know how to conceptualize certain things being right or wrong in life. But this is what social media have us at. You got some women who are solely governed off of things they see and hear via social media. And likewise with men. You got, I had a homeboy, did not know shit about women, but can tell you everything about a woman. Ain't been on no dates, ain't had no significant relationships, don't have no kids, ain't lived with nobody except his mama, like nothing. But he'll sit in his house behind that computer screen and he'll type and peck away all day at the net about what he thinks. And that's because he never had anybody to check him about how he thinks when he was younger. So he grew up to be a man who, you know, and it's really scary when I'm saying it out loud. He grew up to be a man who thinks that everything he thinks is right. And I'm just like, bro, I don't want to be right. I want to get it right. You feel me? I want to get it right. I don't want to be lost in the world. If I'm going the wrong way and you know the right way, tell me. Let me know. If I'm pronouncing something wrong and you know the right way, tell me. Put me on. Like, I do not want to be a lost cause in life. But it's really people who are out here in full-fledged relationships, and they're the lead and the head of a relationship. And you'll think just because they got a place to stay and they got kids that, you know, they are a certain thinking individual, and that's just not the case. It's just not the case. I know, because I know for a fact there's people who I used to see in the shop, and they'll have a wife and kids, and all throughout school it was just like, that was the throw dude. You say his name, they be like, oh, throwed ass so and so, oh, crazy ass so and so. Like, that's what we used to say. That's how we used to talk about people. I mean, whether, looking back on it now, it was not right. Certain people actually had issues, but we come from that era where parents didn't think like something might be mentally wrong with my child just because they outside playing with the rest of the kids and go to the same school, and you know like it ain't nothing wrong. And then if it was something too wrong, they think they can just whoop it out you. Which actually worked most times. Got your ass whooped into a straight line. But now, for real though, it's a lot of those people who I see now as adults, and it be like, damn, like he got a family, or damn, she got a family. Like, but I remember you from school, and I remember in school you weren't the sharpest pencil in the box, so to speak, And again, we just kind of need to start taking that in consideration when it comes to how we're trying to communicate and convey messages to people nowadays, because everybody wasn't in the same class and everybody didn't have the same aptitude for learning and or comprehension. So yeah, be mindful before the next time you start like going back and forth with somebody in social media and in real life, because you might be going back and forth with somebody who was, never in a class in your level in school, and it still shows, 20 plus years after school. So just be mindful. But I know this is a topic that I'm gonna have to visit quite a bit more in the future though.